Hello everyone. Can you let me know if I'm audible and if my screen is visible? Yes, guys. Good evening, everyone. Okay, great, guys. Great. I'm fine, guys. How are you? So we'll be starting shortly. Let's wait for max to max 3 minutes, and then we'll start with the class. Okay. Till then, we'll discuss about the topics which we'll be talking about today. And before that, let me just give you a basic brief of what exactly we talked about yesterday. Right. So the first thing we did is we talked about basically the process through which we get a particular website in our browser. So we'll go through the process. What we do is the first thing we do is we enter the domain. So we say enter domain. Now after entering the domain into your search bar, you get or basically you make a request to the DNS, which is domain name service. Now, what happens when you make a request to the name service? You get actually the IP of the server. So you get the IP of the domain whichsoever you entered. So IP of the server is received, and therefore the request to the server is made. And now you receive HTML. Now, after receiving the HTML, you receive all the related files to it. So HTML is scanned. So basically, it is scanned, and all the resources related to it are basically downloaded, and these can be CSS or it can be JavaScript, right? It can be images or it can be videos or whatsoever it is. Whatsoever you are displaying on the website, it can be represented as a resource. Okay. And yeah, videos, whatever it is, it's if it is an Excel file you want to show, whatever it is, that will be present. And each and every single one of them represents a single resource. So if there is a file, if there is a resource, you need to make an individual request for that to your server. To get each and everything, you make an individual request for every single one of them. Just give me a sec, guys. So yeah, guys. This is basically what we talked about. This is the basic gist of what we did yesterday. We talked about all of this and how it happens, right? We also saw an example of it. In what we saw example of it in Chrome browser, we actually inspected what we inspected Amazon.com, and we saw that when you enter Amazon.com, you basically get the first thing which you get is a HTML page, and then through that HTML page, it scans through it and gets all the related links, relevant links or relevant resources like images or something of that sort. And then it proceeds further to render or display you the whatsoever website wants to display. Now, guys, this is not it. Now I said that it just basically displays it, but in that display there is actually a lot happening in between as well. So after this, after getting the resources, you also need to do something else before displaying it to the user. So we'll talk about that and then we'll proceed with the basics of HTML. That is what we'll be talking about. So we'll wait for 1 or 2 more minutes max to max, guys. And then we'll proceed with today's class. Okay. So there are still people joining. So let's wait for them. And yeah, guys, if you have any doubts from the previous lecture, you can even ask that. Okay. So I guess we can start, guys. Okay. So let's continue and let's talk about today's agenda and what we'll be talking about. Guys, basically IP is one of the ways of uniquely identifying you on the internet. Okay. So if you don't have a IP, there is no other way, actually, a specific way of figuring out who is there present on the internet. So you need a specific physical mode through which I can specify or identify what you are, where you are, and those sort of things. And that is done with the help of IP. So you need a physical address basically of the device. That is what IP is actually used for. Yeah, guys, there are, you can say, ways of building Androids, or you can say Android based, iOS based applications with just JavaScript as well, and basic, not HTML exactly, but yes, with JavaScript as well. So that is why JavaScript is known as to be versatile, because you can build cross platform or native applications, but not exactly HTML, guys, in code in terms of Android. No. Yes, guys, IP and TCP actually have a slight difference. Okay. Basically, it is known to be in a combination. So when you study something like computer networks, you study TCP IP. Okay. This is a protocol which you study inside it. So they are a little bit similar, but yes, they have slight bits of differentiation between them. Guys, domain, if you want me to repeat, not an issue. I'll repeat it at the end of the class. Yes. So let's continue, guys. So we were talking about the topics which we'll be studying about, and these topics we'll be going through today and also continuing for the you can say rest of the days, like 2 or 3 days, depending on how many days we take. So today we'll first talk about something known as DOM. What is DOM? And we'll just talk about a basic brief of it. Okay. We'll talk about what it is, where it is used. That's it. We will be going into deep when we start with JavaScript, because in JavaScript, DOM is actually used very frequently. So there we'll talk about it more. Then we'll talk about what is CSOM. Okay. So there is something similar to DOM known as CSOM. We'll know what it does and why it is required. And then we have something known as render tree. So we'll also talk about render tree. What is a render tree? Basically, if I just tell you gist, render tree is actually a combination of CSSOM and DOM. So when you combine these, you get something known as a render tree. Now, after that, we will actually talk about, basically when you know this, then we'll talk about how exactly the workflow is. So in this workflow, which we talked about earlier, we just directly jumped to the conclusion that we said that after getting this data, you are able to display the user what the website, but that's not how it works. After that, you also need to create or generate something known as a DOM and a CSOM. And then you combine them to create something known as a render tree. And when you get a render tree, now your website is ready to be displayed to the user. That's what happens. So we'll talk about the process, what it is, how it works. Now, after doing that, then we'll jump into the basics of HTML. So after that, we'll be starting with the basics of HTML. So in the basics of HTML, the first thing we'll talk about is what is HTML. So what is HTML? What it is? Then we'll be talking about what are tags. So what are the basic tags? There is something known as tags present in HTML, what they do, how they do and why they do it. And the last one which we have is DOM. Because I'm just talking about the topics which we'll be studying. I've not started anything yet. Okay, we will be going through it again. After that, we will also talk about something known as, we'll dive deeper into the topic. So we'll talk about some more stuff in HTML. And that includes forms. So what are forms? Why they are required? We'll talk about that. So we'll talk about forms and different types of inputs in it. So forms and inputs, you can say. Then you have something known as layouts. So how to create layouts? What are layouts? Why they're important? And at the last, we'll also talk about tables. So how to create tabular structures in HTML and why they're used, how they're used. After that, guys, not yet complete. After this, we'll also talk about the last topic in HTML. And then when we can say that, yes, we are complete with HTML. And that will be attributes and accessibility, because that is a important, fairly important part in terms of knowing HTML. So we'll talk about attributes and accessibility. So what is this? What it means, we'll talk about that. So what is HTML accessibility and why is it really important? So how to write HTML which is accessible. And we'll also talk about, you can say, HTML attributes. What are attributes? Why they are used? So we'll also talk about this. Okay, so guys, these are all the topics which we'll be studying in, you can say, a time span, not just today, because these are, you can say, fairly long topics. So we'll be talking about them in, let's say, 2 or 3 days consecutively, and then we'll be finished with all of these topics. Today, we'll first start with DOM, CSSOM, and render tree, what these are. Now let's proceed. So guys, I told you this. I told you that whenever you create or whenever you enter a website, the first thing you do is you enter the domain. After the domain, what you do, you go to the DNS. The DNS basically gives you the IP of the server. Now, after getting the IP, you get or you receive, the first thing which you receive is HTML. Now you scan that HTML, you get all the respective resources, the respective files, images, whatever it is. You get all of that. Now, after receiving this, you have loaded all your resources. Now, all those resources are actually present at a place, and that is known as local storage. So basically, your browser has something known as a local storage where it stores all these details, all this data for the time being whenever you are visiting a website. Now, when you have this data, you cannot just directly display it to, you can say, or on the browser. You can't do that. You actually need something or a structured format or a structured way through which you can display it to the user. So for that, we require the first thing, which is DOM. So the first thing which you require is something known as DOM. What is the full form of DOM? DOM basically stands for Document Object Model. Okay. So DOM stands for Document Object Model. Now, in this DOM, what exactly are you able to do? You have something known as tags. Okay. So whenever you create or whenever you work with HTML, guys, whenever you will work with HTML, whatever you will write inside HTML is known as tags, tag formats. Okay. You'll always be using something known as tags. So basically, what you do in DOM is basically create a parent-child relation. And you create something known as a tree structure. So DOM is nothing but whatever HTML you get, right? Whatever HTML you get for a particular page, that is represented in a tree structure format. And I told you that HTML actually consists of nothing but bunch of tags. So now those tags can be represented in a parent and a child relationship. And that forms a tree structure. You'll be eventually able to see when we see an example. Okay. So that tree structure can actually help you to figure out that what are the different relationships present between the tags. So this is how actually it will look. Like this is one of your tags. Now this tag actually contains two children elements inside it. So two child tags it has. Now inside that child tag, it might have another sub children. So basically this is what you can see is type of a tree structure. Now for this is your parent and this is your child. But if you compare these two, then this is your child and this is your parent. So you need to basically arrange them in a parent and a child relationship to understand the hierarchy between all the different, you can say, components present inside HTML. And that is what DOM does for us. So DOM, when you get the HTML, DOM is responsible for creating this hierarchy, creating this tree structure for our HTML. And then after creating this tree structure, now we are ready to basically display the HTML. Okay. Any doubts till now, guys? What DOM does, what DOM actually is? It creates an object model. It's a modeling structure, guys. It structures your HTML in a parent-child relationship or a tree format. No, guys, they are actually unidirectional from top to bottom. Okay. I'll tell you guys what the benefit of DOM is. Okay. So basically, when you have a relationship structure, you're actually able to do updates. You're actually able to manipulate the DOM very easily. Let me just tell you something. So let's say that I want to get to this point. I want to get to this point. Now there are two ways. Either I can start from the most top point and traverse through each and every node, and then I can get to this point. Or either I can just know the parent and I can directly get to the child. Right? Which one is better? Definitely the second one. Why? Because I have to do less amount of work. That's why this tree structure is actually very important and useful. Okay, got it. What exactly is the need of tree or DOM? Yes, guys. Okay, now let's proceed. Let's talk about the next topic. So basically, this is what DOM does. This is what in a gist DOM does. Now, after getting this tree structure format for our HTML, we are ready to display the HTML. But with just HTML, you won't get the CSS structure. So for CSS or for getting the styles, when you get the styles as well for a website, you also have something known as CSSOM. So what is this cascading style sheet object model? What it does, again, it does the same thing, parent-child relationship, but this time it does it in terms of CSS. For CSS, it does it. Okay. Now CSS contains something known as parent, or you can say key and value pairs. Key and value pairs. So CSS consists of something known as key and value pairs. Okay. Now, when you create a CSSOM, it basically again does the same thing, structuring. But this time, this structuring is not actually for your HTML, but for CSS. Like when you got the structure, for each of this particular tag, you might apply some styles to it. Like for this tag, it needs to be red in color. The background needs to be green or something of that sort. So when you get this tree, with that, you also need something known as CSS for it to apply some styles. So for this tree, it contains, you can say, additional key and value pairs, data about what styles to apply at a particular parent or a child. And now when you have both of these both are combined to create something known as a render tree. When you have both of this, both of them are combined and you get something known as a render tree. Now, what is it? It is a combination of DOM and CSSOM. What does it look like? It will look exactly like the same. So if you have the DOM, right, it will look exactly the same way as DOM, but only now rather than containing just the tag details here, just the HTML details, it will also contain the style details with it. So with HTML tag, it also contains the styles related to that particular tag with it. Okay. See guys, forget about what I told you, key and value pairs. Okay, forget it for a sec. Okay. Key and value pairs are actually a format in which you apply properties in CSS. So basically, let's say if you want to apply a color property, you say something like this. You say color and you say, I want it to be red. So this is how you apply a property. Okay, this is how you apply a property inside CSS. Now, when you create a CSSOM, what you actually get is basically a tree structure containing these properties. Okay, containing these properties and with respect to the tag. So basically it contains a tag and it says that to this tag, I want to apply these properties, so and so. Now for that, it contains this again tree structure similar to DOM. Now, when you have both of this, you combine them together and you get at the end a render tree. Now render tree on its own does not just contain HTML, but also CSS. Okay, so for a single tag, it will contain the tag details related to HTML and also the CSS details related to the CSSOM. Okay, got it? Yes, guys. Any doubts till now? You can ask. No doubts? Okay, great. Now, guys, it will be a little bit more clear when you look into an example. Okay, there is not a fair example for it to provide you, but I can show you a basic example of it, how it will look. Okay, if you just go to any of the websites, whatever you recommend, let's go to devtown.in. Now, if you right click on it and if you go to inspect, now you see at the right side, you see something, right? You see this structure. What is this? This is nothing, but this is the DOM structure, guys. This is what? This is your DOM structure. You get the DOM at the top and you get the CSSOM related styles at the bottom. Guys, this is what the combination looks like. So if you select a body, so what are these? This is basically a parent-child relation. It is a tree structure. If you are not able to figure out how it is a tree structure, let me just show you. This is what, this is a body tag. I was not showing an example because it will be a little bit confusing for people who don't know it, but fine, not an issue. Let's just say that this is a tag. So what is this? Body is a tag. Now, if you open it, you can see that body on its own contains a lot of child elements. Like inside body, you can see I opened the body and inside this body, I have many children elements. Like this is a div tag. This is a div tag. This is an iframe tag. Now, if I open it, inside that, you have another sub tag. So this is, you can see a parent-child relation or a tree structure. This is what is DOM. Okay. And now if you select any one of these elements, let's say I select this div. At the bottom, I can see all the styles being applied to it. What is this? This is CSSOM. So this is DOM, and with that combination, you get CSSOM. And all of this is together known as render tree. You get that I want a maximum width of so and so, I want padding. You won't be able to get it if you don't know the basics of CSS, but yes, these are some properties which make some changes. Like background color, I want it to be white. You can see it is selected white. So similarly, different CSS properties are being applied to it. Now, is it clear? I've shown you an example. You can try or test it on any website. It will work the same way. Only the structure would look different depending on the website and the design. Clear? Okay. Now, guys. Now, guys, what else do you have? With this, we basically know that how exactly a website is finally rendered. Now it is complete, guys. So now we know that this is the final step, and now your website gets ready to be displayed to the user in a good shape because it includes all the structuring and the CSS as well. So HTML structure and the CSS is included all together now. After that, now we can jump to the basics of HTML, guys. Now it is a good time to jump to the basics of HTML. And the first thing we'll talk about is what is HTML, guys. Guys, I want a answer from you guys. What exactly is HTML according to you? It does not need to be perfect, but whatever you think, you can write it down in the chat box, according to you in a layman language. Okay, hypertext markup language, fine. That is the full form. But what do you define it as? What is it? Skeleton for a website? Yes, absolutely correct. Yes. Skeleton of a page, structure of a website? Yes. Provides basic structure to the website. Infrastructure? Okay. Okay, structure, skeleton, structure. I can see a lot of structure in skeleton. Yes. Structure for a website defines the structure. Okay, fine, guys. Root of a website. Yes. So what is it? Let's just basically talk about it. Now, basically telling the definition won't be enough. For that, you first need to know how to break it. What is HTML? Now, this HTML full form we all know is hyper text markup language. Yes, you know, this is the full form. But this full form can also be broken down into specific different things. Like hyper is a separate word which means something. Text is a separate word which combined with hyper means something. And markup language is something which is different. Now, when you all combine this, when you know each and every one of these, it will be very clear what HTML exactly means. Apart from the definition which you have given me, it is absolutely correct. It is a structure for a website. Yes, it is. Now, we'll start one by one. So let's first talk about hyper. What exactly does hyper mean? So hyper basically is referred to the functionality of you being able to navigate from one file to another or one folder to another. That is what actually hyper actually means. So it is basically the functionality to navigate, or you can say move from one file to another. That is what hyper means. So if you really see in a website, you are able to move from one file to another. Do you agree or not? Yes, guys. Are you able to move from one file to another? Yes or no? Yes, right. So when we talked about pages, we said that when you move from one path to another, in URLs, when we talked about when we move from one path to another, what you're actually doing is you're moving from one file to another. What is that? That is navigation. Navigation in your website or from one website to another. That is what navigation is. So hyper stands for the functionality for you to be able to navigate. That is what hyper means. Now, when you combine that hyper with a text, that is known as hypertext. What does that mean? That basically means that when you are capable of basically creating this functionality with a text, that is known as a hypertext. So if you have seen in a lot of websites, even on Google, when you search for a word, you get a list of things. And what you can do is actually you have a blue, you can say link, which you click on and it navigates you to a new, you can say website. What is that? That is a hypertext. So when you combine the functionality of hyper navigation with a text, when you apply that functionality to a text, that is known as a hypertext. So when you have a text and when you click on that text, you are able to navigate to some another page. That functionality together is known as hypertext. And that is what basically your, you can say, whole browser works on. We'll talk about that, guys. You can create it with something known as tags, which we already talked about. But yes, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, that is what hypertext in combination means. Yeah, absolutely. You create it with something known as anchor tags, but we'll talk about it later. Now let's proceed. Now we know what hypertext means. Now what is markup language? Guys, any one of you who can tell me what is markup language? Anyone, guys? Okay. Yes, guys, what is markup language? Anyone having any idea? It can be right, it can be wrong. It can be a try, not a problem. Which works on brackets. Okay, fine. Sort of correct. No idea, not a problem. Yeah, it is used for formatting, absolutely. But it is actually a part of HTML. So what is markup language? Basically, markup language is nothing but defines what exactly you are creating. Okay, markup language basically means a language by which you can define the syntax. So let's say if I want to create a heading inside, you can say HTML. What do you say? You say something like this, H1. What is this? Basically, you are defining that I want to create a heading. I want to create a heading. This is what is known as markup language. It does nothing, guys. It does nothing else. It just defines a syntax. It defines a structure to your language. It does nothing else. It just defines that what type of thing you want to create. That's it. If I want to create a paragraph inside, you can say something known as websites. You use something known as a p tag. Now we'll talk about them later in brief, but you use this tag and you write whatever you want to in between them, and you have created a paragraph. Now, what are you doing? This is all HTML, guys. What are you actually doing? You're just defining, right? You're just defining that this is what I want my structure on the website to look like. Nothing else. It's not doing any computation. It's not like a calculation or nothing of that sort. That's why HTML is not known to be a language. It is known to be, or it is not known to be a programming language specifically. It is known to be a markup language because it defines only the structure of a website, nothing else. It can't do anything else. It does not have computation power. It does not have logical thinking inside it. So you can't do anything inside it except for defining the structure of a page. Now, is it clear what markup language is? Yes? Okay. I see a lot of yeses, so I guess it is, you can say understood, right? Okay. Now, guys. Let me just give you an example. Okay. What exactly is a markup language? I can just give you an example. Like if you want to create a heading, right? So you defined something known as H1. Now there are different sorts of heading you can create. You use this. If you want to create a paragraph, you use something known as p tag for it, right? If you want to write something in italics, you use I tag for it. Okay. Similarly, there are different tags which do certain specific things which you can use to structure your web page. And that is what exactly markup language means. Now, guys, one important thing which people confuse a lot of times, and I've already talked to you about it, but very important to understand. HTML is a programming language. Let me complete, guys. Question mark. Okay. That is what I want to ask you. Is it a programming language or not? I've already defined it. Why or why not? But yes, no. Why? Why, guys? Give me some points. Give me some points which I can understand that you got it. Why is it not a programming language? Why JavaScript is a programming language? Okay, yes, it does not have computational power. Absolutely. What else? Yeah, it does not have logic. Absolutely. Functions. Okay. Only static. Fine. Okay, fine. Yes, guys. So basically, your HTML actually does not have any of these, whatever I would be writing. The first is logic. It cannot include any logic. You can't include any logic inside it. Okay, that's one of the things. Secondly, you cannot include something known as statements. and specifically conditional statements, guys. What are conditional statements? Like this: if something is true or if something is valid, then this should happen. If something is not valid, then this should happen. Conditional, condition based statements. Correct. You can't do that in HTML. Why? And you can do that in a programming language. So yes, you can't do that in normal programming languages, but not in HTML. What else? You don't have something known as relations. You don't have something known as operations. And that is the reason HTML is not a programming language, guys. Okay. Clear? Got it? And yeah, guys, any doubts till now? Yes. Yeah, guys, syntax is actually not strong. So in HTML, as it is not a programming language, you actually do not get any help in terms of errors. So if you create a p tag, there is a validity that p tag needs to end. This is something which is supposed to happen. But if you don't end it, will that give you an error? No, it won't. Because it does not have a compiler, interpreter, anything of that sort. It cannot predict if something is wrong or right. It will work. Yes, it will work. And yeah, guys, there is only 1 minute left in this meeting. I don't know why, but this meeting is only valid for 40 minutes. So you'll have to rejoin. Okay, rejoin the same link if this meeting ends in between. There is only 1 minute left in this meeting, so rejoin. Guys, you have something like XML, which is basically, you can say, a hybrid of HTML. Now, in that, definitely there are a lot of features. Yes, but it's a little bit hectic, okay, to use. But yes, you can still do a lot of powerful things as compared to normal HTML. And yes, it is also a markup language, guys. XML is also a markup language. Yeah, guys, you can use it in making websites. Yes, you can. XML is usable in making websites. Guys, the meeting is going to end, and it can end anywhere in between 20 to 30 seconds. So yes, whatsoever doubts you have, put them in the next meeting. Okay, it will be ending in between. And we'll stop here, guys. Okay, we'll start in the next one. So yeah, guys, we'll be starting shortly. Let's wait for 1 more minute for people to join, and then we'll proceed with whatever we were studying. Okay, guys. Yeah. So we'll be starting shortly. Okay. So let's wait. Let's wait for 1 more minute max to max for people to join, and then we'll proceed. Okay, guys. Yeah. Some of you were talking to me about something like this, right? You might have seen something like this. Some of the tags end like this, and some of the tags just end themselves. Now, those are two different types of tags, guys, which you have in HTML. One of them is known as self-closing, and one of them is known as, you can say, open and close tags. So one of them you want to have a open and a close tag, and one of them is a self-closing tag. Now, there is a difference. There is a very minimal difference you need to know about, but yes, they will be present. Now, guys, yes, so someone was asking that why exactly do we use HTML then instead of XML? Guys, this is just a base thing. Okay. It's not like you can't use XML or you just need to specifically use HTML. It is known to be that HTML is way more easier to use as compared to XML. And XML, whatever advantages XML gives you, are present in a lot of different technologies which are fairly easy to understand and work with. And that's why XML is not preferred specifically when you're working with, you can say, something like JavaScript. Now, when you work with something like, you can say, Java, right? Java specifically for creating softwares or for creating anything related to web applications with Java, then specifically, yes, XML is preferred. So when you work with Java specifically, yes, apps specifically, XML is preferred. Okay, guys, now let's proceed. Yep. Yeah, so we were talking about HTML, right? And the last thing which we talked about it was something like this. Like it does not have logic, and that's why it does not have statements, relations, or operations, and that's why it is not a programming language. Very important to understand and remember, it is not a programming language. Now, after that, now let's start with the basics of it, guys. So what you need to know in HTML to get started is something known as syntax. So it is syntax of HTML. What is syntax? Basically the structure which is valid to write in HTML. Okay. So in HTML, you use something known as combination of tags. Okay. So this is known as, let's say I'm creating a heading. So I'll use something like this, HTML tag. This will be a starting tag. This is known as the starting tag. This tells you that so and so thing is starting from here and it will end here. So you say the same thing, but with a slash at the starting. And this is, you can say the same thing, HTML tag. And this is your ending tag. So basically this defines that whatever you're creating will start from here and will end here in your HTML. Okay. Yeah. Now, guys, I would be using two terms very frequently, and you might get a little bit confused that why am I using them? You can say simultaneously. So I would use something like elements or element, and I will use something like tag. What is the difference, guys? So when you're talking about a specific, you can say syntax or a specific tag like this, starting and the closing, then you refer it as tag. But when you're talking about a specific property, like I want to create something as a heading, that is an element. So if I just mean heading, I'm not talking about it in terms of tags like H1, H2. In these terms, then I refer it as an element. I want to create an element. But when I say it in terms of tag, I mean in terms of this syntax. Okay. So if I change them or if I say this except of this, that means the same thing, guys. And yes, you can use the same thing whenever you're explaining it to someone as well. Both mean the same. It's just the way they are represented. Yes, guys, got it. Now, guys, is it clear? This is basically the default structure which you get, or default syntax. Now, guys, definitely there are two types of tags. You can even have something known as a self-closing tag. This is an open closing tag. It is a open dash close tag. So you need to open it and then you need to close it. But there is also something known as a self-closing tag. Now, what is a self-closing tag? It means it starts here and it ends at the same place. This is known as a self tag. Okay. It starts from the point and it ends at the same point. Okay. This is known as a self-closing tag. And now if you really, you can say, understand the logic, it will be very clear. If I want to create a heading, I use a starting and a closing tag. Why so? Because a heading is limited, right? I know that I need to enter some data which need to be a heading. So if I want to display some data and I want it to be displayed as a heading, so I need to specify the starting and the ending point, right? I need to specify that it will start from here and it will end here. And this is the data I want it to be at heading. So that's why it is a starting and a closing tag, because we are specifying some data in between the starting and the ending tags. But whereas when you talk about something like self-closing tags, you're not really specifying some data in middle or some specific data in between. And that's why they are known as, or they are referred to as, self-closing tags. They really don't require some data in between. Like you have something like BR tag. What is a BR tag? BR tag is a break tag. What is it used for? In a paragraph. When you write a paragraph, the paragraph will always continue in a single line like this. And if there is no more space, then it will move to the new line. Now, if you want to break this from here, you want to break this line from here, and you want it to enter the new line, then you will use break tag in between the paragraph. So you can see it really does not require any data to be displayed in between. It is just breaking the line. That's why it is a self-closing tag. Right? Did you get the difference? Did you get the logic behind what or why we require an open and a close tag, and why we require a self-closing tag? Okay, great. Now, let's proceed and let's talk about, you can say, the template. Now, guys, whenever you start with something known as a new project, a new HTML page, there is something known as a template which you use. Okay, that's not a requirement. You can actually create it on your own, or something known as a skeleton. Okay. Why do we use it? The reason being that whenever you start with a project, these things stay the same and they will always stay the same. This structure would stay the same. And that's why this structure is very common, and you can reuse it as many times as you want in as many different projects or HTML pages. You can refer to it as a template or a skeleton. This is a default skeleton, and you can use it in as many files, or you can say, yes, absolutely, also known as boilerplate code. And many of the IDEs, integrated development environments, also have this boilerplate with them. You can just write a small, you can say, shortcut, and that will create the boilerplate for you. Yes, the one which is very common is known as emit. Emit is something which is present in every single IDE. It is for, you can say, HTML, and you just write exclamation and it will create that whole boilerplate for you. Now, what exactly does a boilerplate for HTML look like? So the first thing which you have is something known as a doc type, guys. Okay, you something at the starting, you have something known as a doc type HTML. Now, what does doc type HTML actually tell you, guys? Doc type HTML basically specifies that you are using the HTML5, the latest version of HTML, HTML5 you're using for the creation of this page or whatever HTML you are creating. So this first line basically defines that you are using latest version HTML5 for creating this, you can say, HTML file. Now, why is that specific? Because most of the browsers by default might be, you can say, a older version. Let's say you're using a very older version PC, and let's say it has a very old Chrome browser. Now, by default, the HTML which it would be using might not match to the updated version. And then you need to specify that this is the version which I am using or I'm creating my website in. So if you want the best view, the best structure of my website, you want exactly everything the same way, functionalities to work properly, then please use the latest version or the version I'm using. And that is why you define like this, doc type HTML5. Or you just say this and that's it. That will create the latest version of HTML for you. Yes, it's a HTML5 document. That is what it is saying. Now, after this, what else do you have? Okay, just give me a sec, guys. Now, after that, guys, you also have at the bottom the second thing which you have after this is something known as HTML tag. Okay, this is the tag, and it is a starting and a closing tag. It defines the root of your HTML. So it says that whatever HTML I would be writing, whatever HTML content I would be writing for this, you can say file, I would write it in between these two tags, the starting and the ending tag. This is what defines that it will start from here and it will end here. Now, inside this, you have two things. The first thing is known as head. So it is known as head of a HTML page. And it is also again a starting and a closing tag. And then you have something known as a body. Now, guys, in the body, you write whatever content you want to be displayed on the page. So whatever you write here, whatever code, HTML, you can say tags or syntax you write here, it will all be displayed on your website or on your page. Whatever you write in the head does not get displayed on the website on the main page. Okay, so remember, only the body, whatever you write inside the body gets displayed on the page, not the heading or not the head. Head actually contains something known as metadata, guys. What is head? Head is a place where exactly one thing is present, which is metadata. Okay. What is metadata? Metadata basically means additional information about your website, which if not present would work, and if present would be better. Okay, guys. If you don't write anything in the head, will it work? Yes, absolutely. It will work. So yeah, it is data about data, guys. Metadata basically means data about data. So data about your website. Like one of the tags it contains is something known as a title tag. And it is pretty, you can say, obvious to basically understand that it provides a title to your HTML page. Now, if you don't include it, will it be a problem? No, it won't. But it is good to have. So that's why it is just additional information. Now, where do you see it? I said that it is not displayed on the HTML page. So where do you see this title? You see it at the top of the page, guys. So you can see this here. This is known as the title. Okay, guys, this is the title of the page at the top. Yeah, on the tab, right? On the top at the tab, you see this title. Now you also have with it something known as meta tags, guys. Okay, so you also have something known as meta tags, and those are self-closing tags, guys. Meta tags are self-closing tags. What are meta tags? Again, used for adding metadata, additional data about your website. Now, these are used for a lot of different reasons. And in the boilerplate, you actually have three common meta tags. Okay, three frequently used meta tags. Yeah, used for SEO, search engine optimization, and also for maintaining proper working of your website, guys. Yes, it also is used for that. Meta tags are used for additional details. It is used for search engine optimization. What is search engine optimization? It simply means that whenever a website is being searched, right? So how will the website or the you can say search engine get to know that your website is a perfect fit for that result? on the basis of the description of the website, what it does, how it does, on that basis, right? So that is what this provides, metadata provides. Okay. Now there are a lot of different types. Okay, metadata, like the one which I'm using here is something like meta, and then you specify something like this name. Now you don't need to worry about what this is and what it does, but it just says that I want to provide a metadata, and this is a description. This is a description for my website. And this is the description of my website. Okay. This is how you define that I'm specifying the description of my website, and this is my description of my website. This is how you specify the description of a website with the help of a metadata. But yes, this is just an example. Okay. Now, is it clear, guys, what metadata is, what the boilerplate looks like, what each one of these tags do? Yes, guys. Any doubt, any question you want to ask, you can. Okay, SEO, right, fine. Now, guys, SEO actually is a different field. If you really think about it, SEO is a very big field. It's not just related to meta tags, guys. It is related to a lot of things. But yes, SEO is a big field. I'll tell you about what SEO does. We'll talk about it. Okay. Where will this description display? Okay, I'll also talk to you about that. Okay, fine. So when you include this metadata, right, what happens? Let's say I search for deaf town. I'm not going to the website. I'm just searching for it on the internet. And if you hit enter, you see this description. This is what is the one which we wrote here in this meta tag. So this description is actually what you get when you search for a particular website and you get it in the search result. That is what it is. Now for these options, this is actually additional metadata you will have to specify. But yes, it is also possible. No, guys, SEO is not used to get traffic on your website, guys. That is, you can say, not true. Not exactly true. What is SEO, guys? Basically, whatever you need to basically for understanding SEO, you need to understand basically how exactly search engines work, how exactly Google works. Google does something known as ranking, and it happens very frequently, guys. Google ranks websites. So if you register a new domain, if you enter or if you create a website for, you can say business or something, then you would register, and what it will do, what Google will do is basically it will rank your website. Now the ranking happens in a lot of different, you can say, terms, not just one. There are a lot of different aspects involved in it. But one of them is the metadata about your website. So if you have a proper metadata description of your website, then people will be able to find good results. That is what is to be known. So if your website provides exactly the same description for what it is present, your website will be ranked higher. The reason being, people are visiting your website more and more. So also, yes, the number of hits on your website also matters. Retention rate means someone entered your website, for how long he is staying in your website. That also matters for the ranking of your website in the list. Ranking simply means that, let's say if you search for a tag, let's say your website name was deaf town, and you search for deaf town, then where exactly is your, you can say, website placed in the search bar? That is what basically ranking means. Is it present on the first page or the second page or the third page? And if you really think about it, most of the times you find the relevant results on the first or the second page. It is very rare that you go to third, fourth, fifth, any other page, right? That is why ranking is important, because people need to know, or people will know how exactly your website works. Okay. If it is good with respect to the result they were searching for, and if it was not, then yes, Google will get to know and it will decrease your ranking with that particular tag as well. Okay. So SEO means search engine optimization, and it is used for creating a higher ranking for your website. Now, is it clear what SEO means, guys? Okay, great guys, great. Now, now we know what all this means. Let's try it out, guys. Now let's try it out in, you can say, code sandbox. Now guys, very important thing I want to tell you. Okay. Now guys, for our understanding purpose, for our practice purpose, we'll be using code sandbox. So we'll be using code sandbox. It is an online IDE. Okay, online IDE. And guys, I would prefer you use an online IDE for now for practice. When you're creating a project, definitely use your own operating system and offline IDE. Like you can go for VS Code or you can go for any other IDE. Okay. Remember, Sublime Text is not a IDE. Don't go for that. Notepad plus is not a IDE. Don't go for that as well, guys. You need an integrated development environment. What is that? Integrated development environment is basically something which can provide you with errors. Okay. It can read your code and figure out if you're doing something wrong. It can give you errors. It can give you suggestions. And that's why it is known as IDE. It has something known as intelligent sense in it. Whereas normal text editors like Notepad or Sublime Text do not have that. I would prefer you go with VS Code. The reason being we will be using the same. Guys, IDE is not a compiler. IDE means integrated development environment. It just provides you a space where you can code. What it will help you in? It will help you in figuring out bugs easily. It will, you can say, mark that this is something which can give you error in future. And it also reads through your code to figure out the best practices which you can apply. And suggestions also it provides you. That's why we use a IDE, not a text editor. And guys, don't use Atom. Okay. Don't use Atom. If anyone is using Atom at this point, I'll just let you know that Atom is going to be, you can say, discarded. Okay. Atom is getting back its, you can say, public license. So it is going back into development phase and it was not working well. It was not getting good response. And that's why Atom, I won't prefer. Atom is another IDE, guys. IDE, integrated development environment like VS Code. Okay. If someone uses Atom, I would prefer that you switch to another IDE, whatever you prefer. But I would prefer VS Code. If you want to, you can say code along with me, or if you want exact same results as me, because yes, I'd be using VS Code. Now for, you can say, practice, we'll be using code sandbox, because the reason being I can share my code, guys. Whatever I code at the end, I can share that with you on the WhatsApp. I can share a link and you can go through the code and you can even edit it if you want to. You can create a copy of it for your own. That's why I'll be using code sandbox. And I would prefer that you use the same. So that if you have some doubts, you can share the link with me as well. And that's why. No, guys, there is no different, you can say, problem. There is something known as Replit, which you can use. It is a very good IDE. There is something known as Replit. There is, I guess, something known as Gitpod, but Gitpod requires a lot of setup. It is a professional IDE, but yes, if someone is familiar, you can use that. There is something known as, I guess, CodePen, right? CodePen you can also use, but I would prefer you use Code Sandbox because it is, you can say, similar environment to VS Code. And yeah, guys, I think it is clear why we are referring to Code Sandbox and whatever I told you, right? Now we'll jump into Code Sandbox then. Okay, now let's proceed. Guys, we'll talk about Git later. Okay. Git is a little bit complex. You'll have to understand the basics of it to get started with it. If you want to learn it a little bit, you can say earlier than that, please see a guided video or anything of that sort. Okay. Version control. Yes, it is version control, but we will study Git when we require it. Okay. I'll talk to you about it, what it is used for, how you can use it. We'll talk about all of it, but not right now. We'll talk about it later. Yes, guys, PyCharm is also a good IDE. If you want to use that, you can use it. Okay, but PyCharm is mostly preferred for Java, or PyCharm is mostly preferred for Python. Yes, it is a good, you can say, environment as well. But remember, if you're using PyCharm, you require a heavy environment. Okay, you require a PC which can work on heavy stuff, because PyCharm is heavier IDE. Yes, absolutely. VS Code is fairly, you can say, simple or easy to use as compared to PyCharm. It has a, yes, it is advanced. It has a lot of things inside it. Yeah, guys, you can use Eclipse, but I won't prefer. The reason being, Eclipse is also most probably built for Java. Okay, its core functionality is for Java. But yes, you can use Eclipse if you want to. I've used it. It works perfectly fine. Yeah, let's proceed, guys. Now, let's jump to the Code Sandbox, guys. So I'll show you. This is my dashboard for Code Sandbox. What you need to do, just search for Code Sandbox and hit enter. And the first website you get, codesandbox.io. That is the official website of Code Sandbox. Click on it. It will take you, it is taking me to the dashboard because I'm already logged in, but it will take you to the home page of Code Sandbox. There you will have to log in first or create your account. Now you can create your account on the basis of Google or on the basis of your GitHub account. So suit yourself whatever you want to do. And then you will land up in this page. Okay, now you won't see all of this, which I'm able to see at the bottom. The reason being, these are all my projects and what I've worked on. You will see only this template at the top, create a new sandbox. You click on it and you see a bunch of templates which you can use from. So there is a lot of things you can do in Code Sandbox. You can create a React project, a React TypeScript project, only JavaScript, Angular, Vue 3, a lot of things, Node.js. So we'll be using a static file, guys, because we want to work only on HTML for now. We'll use static. Remember, we'll be using static. If you're not able to see it here, just search for it at the top right side and click on it, and it will create a new project for you, a static file. Okay. Now, just give me a sec, guys. I'll note it down somewhere. Okay. And yeah, guys, let's proceed. Yeah. So now you can see I'm in the environment, I'm in the Code Sandbox, and it has opened a new project for me. Now on the left side, this icon basically shows you, you can toggle and see the project folder structure. Now in this folder, I have 3 files. Don't worry about package.json, what it does. We'll talk about it because yes, we will require it in future. But for now, you can skip it. It is just a configuration file, a setup file which you require for Code Sandbox to run properly. And similar case for sandbox.configs.json. It is a JavaScript object notation file required for your project to work properly in Sandbox. Don't delete them, just keep them howsoever it is and just keep them for now. What you need is just index.html. That is a file, that is our HTML file. And you can see this is a result which we are getting. Okay. Now, if you want, you can just, you can say minimize it and you will get this option where on the left you can code and on the right you can see your results. Okay. You'll have to save your file again and again if you want to see the results. So if I update something, right, I'll have to click control and save to save this file to get the results. Okay. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, guys. JSON is the very common format in which the files are transferred on the internet. Whenever you get some data from the server, most probably it is going to be JSON. Okay. That is what JSON is. We will use it. We'll use it in future very, you can say a lot of times. And yes, then you'll get to know a lot about it. Guys, the website link is fixed. Okay. So this website link which you get, is fixed. It can't change. So I'll just change the project name. So this is, I guess, day 2, right? So it will be day 2 and it is HTML basics. So yeah, I'll share this link with you guys. So guys, now what you need to do. So when I share this project, guys, how will I be sharing this project? I'll click on the share button and I'll copy this sandbox link and I'll share it with you guys. Now, if you want to view it, visit it, you can just open that link and it will open this code sandbox for you guys. Now you can't directly update or edit on it. You'll have to first create a copy of your own so that you can edit it. How to create a copy? You use something known as fork, guys. You can see at the top right, just next to share, you have fork. What will fork do? It will create a copy of this project for your own use, separate use. Okay, that is what it will do. And then you can start writing or updating it whatever way you want. It will be your own private project. Okay, it will just be a copy. And guys, one of the reasons why Code Sandbox will only use for, you can say, the learning purpose and not for projects is because it is public. Okay, whatever you create here is accessible globally. You can see it shows a globe symbol here. It means it is public and whosoever is present on Code Sandbox can view this project. That is the reason that we won't code up private projects on it. If you want, you can definitely. If you think that I don't have a specific project which I don't want to share with people, right? Don't code with it or don't code here. It is public, anyone can access it. And yes, you get a, you can see link. Okay, guys, this is a link which is accessible. So even if you close this Code Sandbox, you can even share this link and people will be able to visit your, you can say, whatever output or design you have created. So if I go here, if I hit enter, you can see I get a heading of static template. If I just change it with HTML basics, and if I save it, now if I go back to my project, so if I just save it, go back here and refresh the page, you'll see that my updates have been made. So yes, guys, this is live. Okay. And you can share it with your friends if you want them to show how or what static page or design you have created. That is why also it is preferred. Code Sandbox is preferred. And yeah, guys, if you buy a pro version, yes, then you can basically create private files. But yes, we are not using pro version. We actually don't require it. So yeah, clear, guys, clear till now. Clear? Is the voice breaking, guys, till now? Voice breaking? Breaking? Okay, guys. Just give me a sec. Clear? Clear? Okay, fine. I guess there was some network issue for a time being. I think now it is clear. Okay, fine. Now, guys, you can see it already contains a template, right? It already contains a template. But now in this template, you will also be able to see, you can see meta tags. These are 3 meta tags which you will always have in your project. And these are necessary, guys. Okay, there is a specific reason for it. The first one describes something known as UTF-8. This is basically the encoding, the character set your HTML page is using. Okay, guys, that is a universal character set. UTF-8 is a character coding your page is using. It is like sort of encryption. No. UTF-8 is basically a list of characters which your website is built on. Okay. Like English, you're writing everything in English. So English has a set of characters which you can choose from, a set of numbers which you can choose from, a set of, you can say, alphabets or special characters which you can choose from. That is what UTF-8 contains. Okay. There are different coding formats, guys, basically character set formats. If you're creating a website in Chinese, you'll have a different format. You might not use UTF-8. Why? The characters they use is different as compared to yours. That's why it is preferred to have a meta character, basically this one, char set. What it defines is basically it tells other people that in which character set your website is created. Let's say if an international or if a person or an international visitor views this website, most probably there is a case that he visits or he has a default Chrome browser language as Japanese or Chinese or whatever, right? Now, the character set by default for him would not be UTF-8. And if you don't have this meta tag, guys, if you don't have this meta tag, and if you just share this website with him, he might not see exact same characters as you wrote here. They might not make any sense for him, even in his language. Why? Because you are not specifying the exact encoding or character set in which your website was made. Yeah, guys, if you want to see example, you can just say character set types. Okay. Just search for it, go to images, and this is what character set types means. Okay. You can see these are character sets for a specific language. These are character sets for a specific language. Okay. Similarly, if you use UTF-8, there are specific character sets it uses. Okay. That is what it means. Voice breaking, just give me a sec, guys. I'll change my network. Okay, guys. Now is it clear? Is it still breaking for you guys? Nope. Okay. Okay, fine. Now, if you want to see examples, you can go to, there are different websites available where you can see different types of character set. But the one which you would mostly use is UTF-8. Okay. It is a 8-bit UCS transformation format. You can see there are different types of character sets available. Right. The one which we are using is UTF-8. And it mostly contains all the character sets you require in English. Okay, that's why. Now, after that, after this meta tag, let me just save it because that is required. And then after that, you have this second one, which says a name of viewport. So what exactly is it doing? It is doing something related to viewport. What is a viewport, guys? Viewport basically is yes, guys. Can you let me know if I'm audible? And my screen is visible? Okay. Yeah. So we will continue. So I guess there was some internet issue from my side and yeah, I got disconnected. Yes. So we were talking about meta tag, right? Yes. So what is basically this meta tag? So now the type or the way it is working is something known as name. So name basically defines what exactly it is doing. Okay. And by the name, it says it is viewport related. So whatever stuff it is doing, it is related to viewport. Now, the viewport basically means the visible area of a website. That is what a viewport means. Now, for this website, if you see it in this display, this is your viewport, guys, the white window which you can see, because this is the space available or visible to you for your website. Now, if you see here, guys, if I go to any of the websites, right, you see this is the viewport. This is how much ratio or size you can see of a particular website. This is what the viewport for this, you can say, website. So guys, this is what is known as the viewport, the amount of the website you can see on a screen. Now, if I, you can say specifically talk about code sandbox, then this is the viewport. So meta tag is used so that the viewport and the ratio with respect to the viewport can be managed properly. If you don't specify this meta tag, then the responsiveness of the website won't work properly. What responsiveness means is basically, if you really think about it logically, if I have some data, if I'm showing a lot of data on a website in this much size, will I be able to show the same amount of data properly in this much size? No, I won't. Small sizes, I won't be able to show the same amount of data properly. That is because I have scarcity of size. So I'll have to arrange things in a way. So if you don't have this viewport, meta tag viewport, then the arranging would not happen properly. So the width would not arrange properly with respect to the device's width. That is what you're specifying in the content. And secondly, the ratio, the scale. So initially, whenever you see a website, it has a particular scale. So if I go to a particular website, you have a particular scale in which you can view. The scale is 1. 1 means complete. It means initial scale, 100%. You can even increase it or decrease it. How? If you want to do it without doing this, you can do control and then scroll bar. If you click control and then you scroll, you can see now I'm viewing it at 6.7 ratio, 67%. And you can see, I can see a way more data on the website. Why? Because I am viewing it as a you can say lesser ratio. If I zoom in, you can see I can see way more less data. How much I'm viewing it at? I'm viewing it at 110. So it means 1.1 ratio. So this is how the ratios change. And you want your website to be at an initial ratio of 1. So that if a person wants, he can scale like I was able to see different data. Yes. And that is what this meta tag is used for. Understood, guys? Yes or no? Any doubts? Anything you want to ask? Yes, guys. Yeah, according to a device, guys, according to a device. So if you actually think about it here, when you're changing the size of the website, right? When you're changing the size of the display, what are you actually doing? You're actually simulating a size for the website to be displayed on, you can say, a display, right? This can be a simulation for a small window or a small mobile screen. This can be a simulation for a tablet screen. This can be a simulation for a large screen. Definitely, it's not, you can say, a mobile or a PC, but simulations can happen for testing purposes. And that's why it is created. Yes, if the device's width changes, right, it will be available according to that width. See, guys, you can change it. You can test it out. If you want, you can scale it. You can say I'm scaling it at 500. And you can see, I can barely see something inside. It is actually simulating, you can say, a size of, you can say, mobile screen, somewhat like a mobile screen. So you can test it out. It actually does not make any sense because 500 times is actually a lot. 200 times is also actually a lot. But yes, you can zoom in and zoom out of it as a ratio and test out stuff. Right. And yeah, guys, now you have the last one, which is the meta tag for compatibility. Okay. This is nothing. This is a tag for compatibility purpose, for your website to be compatible with different browsers and HTTP formats. Okay. That's it. That is what it does. It is used for compatibility reasons. And yeah, guys, that's it. Now we know how the boilerplate actually works and what each one of these lines use. And guys, this is very important. You saw that in my, you can say, whiteboard, I did not show you that, right? I did not show you those meta tags. But whenever you create a boilerplate, these meta tags, I would refer or I would suggest that you use. These are important. If you don't put them, some or the another thing might not work properly. Guys, the last one is basically for compatibility reasons. Okay. Now, every browser basically works a little bit differently. Okay. So basically, it tells you that whatever you're getting in this website, it is in the form of HTTP equivalent. Okay. It is telling you that this header, this data is in HTTP format. Okay. That is what it is telling you. Yes, guys. Any other doubt? See guys, IE Edge is basically specific. Okay. It is just meaning that I want my website to be specifically, you can say, accessible for Edge. Microsoft Edge, you know, Microsoft Edge as a browser, right? It requires this tag specifically for your browser or for your website to be a little bit compatible with Microsoft Edge. So that is what it defines. With other browsers, you don't need this tag, but yes, this is something which is mostly required. So that's why it is put there. Guys, boilerplate is this. This is what boilerplate means. Boilerplate is something which is reusable structure. So this code which I wrote here is reusable. If I create any other file, if I just create another page, let's say contact.html, I can just use the same boilerplate, guys. That's what it means. You can see what I can do. I can use the emit shortcut. I can say exclamation, I can hit enter, and you can see I got the same boilerplate. This is what boilerplate means. Reusable code. And this is the starting point of your HTML page. That's why it is reusable. That is what a boilerplate means. See guys, boilerplate, the word actually comes from, if you have seen boilers, right? Boilers are what? Large heating systems being made. Okay. Those have a particular shape and structure, which they have. Right. So for building that particular container, what they used to do was they used to boil, or you can say melt the metal, and they used to make it in a particular shape. And that shape was reusable, like a mold. That's why you got the name boilerplate, reusable code. That is what boilerplate means. Meta content, right? So yeah, you can add something like this to it. You can add something like meta, and you can add to it the one which we use, like name, and you can add a content. So name basically defines what exactly it would be doing. So I want it to hold the description of my website. So I can say that this meta tag is responsible for the description, and whatever description you want to specify, you can write it down here, right? You can say this is my first HTML boilerplate, right? That is what you can write. And this will be displayed as a description for this website. And yeah, guys, that is it. So yeah, guys, we'll stop here. We'll stop here for today, and we'll proceed with whatever it is on Monday. Guys, description, I told you, whenever if you search for a particular website on the internet, like I search for DevTown, right? If I search for DevTown tag, and if you have your website visible on the search bar, here you see the description, guys. This is what you specified here in the description. This is what you see here. This is what the description is. Guys, no classes on Sunday, guys. It's a holiday. Yeah, guys. So the class is finished. The class is over. So if you have no doubts, you can simply leave. Okay. And if you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay. Yeah, guys, I've noted the WhatsApp group, right? Whichever you're sharing, I'll also join that so that you get the latest updates there as well. Okay. No, guys, see this language you see, right? I didn't talk about it. I skipped it. But yes, this is basically an attribute. It tells you that this HTML page, the language which I'm using inside it, right, is English. If you change it at the top on the websites, you might have seen there at the right, you get a translator, right? Translator. What is that? That is for this. It basically defines that which language you have created or you have written inside your HTML page. And if by default your Chrome browser is writing in English, or if reads English by default, then if you have the language as anything else, then you might see a translator here at the right side, which says that this page is not in English. Do you want me to translate it? That is what it is used for. No, guys, like you do for Microsoft Edge, it is just a, you can say, exception. You don't need to do it for any other, you can say, browser. You don't need to. For compatibility reasons, no. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think. Guys, please enter in the meeting with a correct username. Okay. Write your proper name. Next time, I will basically, yeah, detain him or I'll leave the meeting. Please change or please have your proper names in the meeting. I'll also send a message in the group as well. See, guys, Zoom is a website. Okay, Zoom is a website. You get it. But if you're talking about functionality like video, right? Videos, that is not by Zoom. Zoom is a software, guys. Okay. If you're talking about video translation, which we are doing, you can take an example of something like Google. Google Meets is present on the internet. So yes, you can take an example of that. On the internet, you can do communications. For that, you require something known as WebSockets, guys. Okay, you need to know the knowledge of WebSockets. You can do it with Monstack, absolutely. But you need to know WebSockets, and there is something known as RTC, WebRTC. You need to know that. WebRTC is something which provides you the capability of creating live sessions. Okay, and there you can create live sessions like you can share your videos, you can record, right? That is what is capable with the help of WebRTC. Okay, guys, I'll also share the unlisted video in the other group. Not an issue. Don't worry, guys, I'll share it. Okay. And yeah, guys, someone was talking about the meta tag, right? You were a little bit confused. See, guys, this meta tag, right? Meta tag actually contains a bunch of stuff. Now, the name property which you have here, this is known as an attribute, additional information about a tag. The attribute specifies, name attribute specifies what type of tag it is, what metadata or what information does it contain. So this metadata contains description of my page. This metadata is talking about the viewport related stuff, the viewport related ratio, the viewport related width and height. That is what it defines. And the content basically defines the information related to it. So name defines the type, what it is, and content defines the information, what you want to inform the user about, or what the main core, you can say, definition of it is. That is what content contains. Yes, EN basically stands for the language English. It means that whatever you're writing, whatever you have written inside your website, we are displaying inside your website, it is in form of English. Okay. Yeah, guys, for icon, you actually have a different meta tag. We'll talk about that. Definitely, you can add it. You can search like this. Okay, let me just show you an example for it. There is a different tag which you can use. Yes, fav icon. This is the one. Where is it? Yes, guys, this one. You can see this is the tag which you add. This is also meta information. This is a link tag. Okay. Now it contains a lot of attributes. That's why I didn't introduce it. Right. But yes, this can be used to add an icon for it. Or inside your website, you can use it to add an icon. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later when we basically need it. But yes. And yeah, guys, that is it for today. So thank you, everyone. And have a nice day. I'll upload the recording, guys. Don't worry about it. I'll upload it as soon as possible and you will find it. Okay. In both the groups, whichever you are in. And thank you everyone and have a nice day. And we'll end our lecture for today. Bye guys. Bye everyone. Yeah guys, enjoy the holiday. Good night guys. Good night.